Good evening everyone. I'm Ankit and you're watching the Indian Express analysis. Today is 16th of May and we are going to discuss important news and article that I've picked up from the Indian Express newspaper. Now our first article obviously is about the RBI's economic capital framework. What is RBI's economic capital framework? How is it used to give profits or dividends to the government? We'll understand in our today's discussion. Now I'm claiming this today. Search economic capital framework on YouTube and the videos that you'll get now, it will not tell you the complete aspects of economic capital framework. So if you want to understand what is economic capital framework perfectly, today is the right way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to cover this article and this is relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, because if you see the syllabus of both prelims and mains, RBI's policy making decision are an important part of question formation when it comes to UPSC exam. So therefore you need to understand in detail how economic capital framework determines how the RBI is going to give profits to the government. Now, also government depends a lot on RBI, so that the money which RBI gives the government obviously uses it for other purposes. So that is why even the government wants that every year RBI should give more and more profit. So we'll understand whether is it only the consideration of the government or something else that RBI takes care of in order to give profits to the government. This is our today's discussion. Then in the second article, we'll cover what was left out yesterday, and also to my surprise, an article on PLFS even appeared in our today's newspaper also. So we are going to understand the changes that have been made in the periodic labor force survey. This is a survey which is being given by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and it tells you the data of employment and unemployment levels in the country, urban, rural areas, everything, right? So we are going to understand how this survey works, what are the methodology to estimate employment in the country, and how changes have been made in this PLFS. This again is relevant from GS paper 3, because in GS paper 3 you'll see issues relating to Indian economy perfectly and prominently with issues relating to employment. That is given in the GS paper 3 syllabus, and also questions have appeared on exactly this topic, that is what is the methodology used by government to estimate employment and unemployment. So there you'll write the answer regarding to what I'll tell you today. In the third article, we'll be covering the insurance sector regulator, that is Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, because the chairman post of IRDAI has been vacant for last 2 months. And despite the government has initiated the process of appointing a new chairman is not still appointed by the government. So we'll try to understand the procedure, how the government appoints the IRDAI chief, and why is it important for insurance sector regulator to have a chairperson every time. Similarly, in the fourth article, this is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective because it deals with a regulatory body. Okay. Now in the fourth article, we'll be covering the concept of birthright citizenship, and birthright citizenship is in news. Why? Because of ongoing issues who to give citizenship to in US. So in that regard, we'll understand the basic concept of birthright citizenship and how changes that were being made by the US government, particularly by US Donald Trump administration, how will it impact India or Indian people. Okay, so this is particularly relevant from polity syllabus, therefore the relevant paper is GS paper 2. In the fifth article, we'll be covering a place in news that has been in news for the past few years, that is Gaza Strip. We understand Israel and Hamas is engaged in a war, and Hamas used to rule the Palestinian territory of Gaza Strip. So we'll try to understand geographical, political features of Gaza Strip and why it is in news currently. Also, we'll try to solve a question that have appeared in prelims regarding this topic, and also we'll try to solve another practice question on the same. And in the last article, if the time permits, I'll cover it. If not, I will cover it in 9 PM today only. Do not worry. This is probably the most important article in our today's discussion, that is the presidential reference which the President of India has made under Article 143 of the Constitution. So how this presidential reference works, what this particular reference of the president is all about, everything in detail I will cover in our today's discussion. Okay, so if the time permits, I will cover it in this session. If not, I will put the same video on the 9 PM slot today itself. Do not worry. So today you will know everything about presidential election, presidential reference. This is from my side a commitment to you. Okay, so as usual, the notes of this session will be available on my Telegram channel. This is called as ATS Live. So what you need to do, click on the top right hand corner of your Telegram app. There is a search button on it. Enter the words ATS Live, and there you will find the channel. If you still don't, or if you still are not able to find the channel, this is the QR code which you can scan in order to get to my channel. Subscribe to it if you still haven't, and download the notes, which I will make sure to upload after the session ends. Okay, so sometimes if I do not upload it immediately, rest assured I will upload it by 6 p.m. Okay. Now, good evening, Baga, Augustine, Rishi, Vaishnavi, Naveen, Tani, Reshma, Priyalata, Bandhana, Amar. Hi and good evening to all of you. Naveen talks be about what? Sonu, good evening. Now, this is the first article we are going to cover in detail. This talks about that RBI board reviews the economic capital framework and surplus transfer to the government may rise up to 3 lakh crore rupees. So, in this regard, what is economic capital framework? This is the big question that we are going to address today. And rest assured, this is a very complex topic, but I will do everything in my effort to make this simple and make you understand everything in our today's discussion. So, you need not refer economic capital framework after this session. You will be sorted with this issue. Now, this appeared in the economy page, that is on page 13, and obviously the relevant paper is GS paper 3. Hello, Arun Kumar. Now, the context of our today's discussion that the Central Board of Directors of the Central Bank of India, Reserve Board of India, yesterday they reviewed the economic capital framework, which is used to determine the amount of risk provisioning that the RBI does and also the surplus distribution of its profits to the government of India. Now, you understand any private entity, if it makes profit, automatically the portion of its profit is given to the owners of that company, right? Which includes also the shareholders. Similarly, in that regard, what you need to understand that RBI, it is 100% owned by government of India. So, whatever profit RBI distributes it to its owner, automatically all the profit will go to government of India. Understand? But this economic capital framework also decides on the fact how much risk provisioning that RBI needs to do before transferring this profit to government of India. So, this is the basic understanding of what we'll try to solve in the next few minutes. Okay. Now, before understanding the economic capital framework, you need to understand how RBI makes money, right? Now, RBI makes money with different kind of assets. You understand in banking, there are two terms, liabilities and assets. Liabilities means if I have taken money from someone and if I have to return that back the money, that is called as my liability. But suppose if I've given that money to some person, that is an asset because that person will not just return me the money, but will also pay the interest. So, it is a source of income to me, right? So, this is how RBI also has some kind of an assets. And what kind of assets does RBI have? RBI has large amount of gold. We have already understood it. RBI has more than 700 tons of gold, and obviously if the prices of gold increases, automatically the value of gold that the RBI holds, the value of that gold also increase. Okay, so this is how RBI makes profit. Similarly, RBI in its foreign currency reserve has sizable amount of foreign currency assets, be it US dollar, be it Japanese yen, be it pound, be it euro, and be it other important foreign currency. So, automatically if the value of say US dollar increases, automatically the value of foreign currency assets that the RBI has within it also increases. So, suppose if RBI purchased $100 at a price of 60 rupees per dollar, but now if the price of dollar is 85 rupees, automatically the profit of RBI for that dollar is 25 rupees per dollar. So, this is how RBI makes money out of the foreign currency assets that it holds. Similarly, RBI is known as what? It is known as banker to the government. So, it issues loans to central government, it issues loans to state government, and they do so by taking government securities. And also you understand, in taking government securities, these government securities do what? These government securities provide interest income to RBI. So, for the amount of government securities that RBI is holding or the amount of loan it has extended to both of these government, the RBI will be eligible to get interest income. So, this is also a part of income source for RBI. Similarly, RBI is also known as a banker to the bank. So, when it extends loans to bank under repo rate, under different kind of instruments like marginal standing facility, standing deposit facility, these banks also give RBI the interest rate. Okay, so these interest income also is the source of RBI's income. So, all of this gold, foreign currency assets, government securities, loans to different entities, these are assets of RBI and allows RBI to make money out of these instruments. Now, another part that you need to understand is the part of realized and unrealized profit, right? So, what is realized and unrealized profit? I'll tell you with a very simple example, okay? Suppose if you own a house, right? So this is a house that you own. Pardon my drawing, it is very bad, not as bad as my teaching, okay? Now, this is a house that you purchased for how much rupees? For 50 lakh rupees, okay? Now, obviously, if you're not living in that house, the smarter thing for you to do is to put that house on rent. And suppose if the rent income that you have fixed, that you have extended that rent for 20,000 rupees per month. So in 1 year, how much amount of money you will make out of renting your house? That is rupees 2.4 lakh rupees. Okay. So this is your income for the last 1 year. Similarly, if you have purchased that house for 50 lakh rupees, suppose if the property rates in the area increase, now the price of that house becomes 55 lakh rupees. So here your profit becomes what? 5 lakh rupees. But now if you still continue to own the house and if you not sell the house in the market, so you are not making this 5 lakh rupees profit actually. Although the price of house has increased, but you have not made that profit because you have not sold the house in the market. So this 5 lakh rupees is what is called as unrealized profit. But regardless of the fact, you are making monthly income of 20,000 rupees, that means 2.4 lakh rupees every year. But this is a realized profit because you have this money in your own account. Understood the difference between the realized profit and unrealized profit? Examples of government securities. These are government securities itself. For example, suppose if government borrows money from RBI, it gives a certificate called as government security. And if RBI return that government security, government will give the principal amount back. And the income source of that government security is that government also provides interest rate. Understood now, Baga Spinks? So this is the difference of unrealized profit and realized profit. Realized profit is that the profit that you have in your hand, in your bank account, and unrealized profit are also known as notional profit, which means it exists on paper, but in reality you do not have that money in your account because you have not sold the house in the market. Right? So coming back to these assets, now I told you RBI maintains a sizable amount of foreign currency assets and gold, and not necessarily RBI is going to sell all its gold in the market every year because it has to maintain that kind of a gold. So the amount of money that the RBI is making due to increase in prices of gold and foreign currency asset, in some cases if it is not sold in the market, that is unrealized profit. But automatically when government is providing itself interest rates on the loans that it has taken, similarly state government is providing interest rate or interest income to RBI, or the banks who have taken loans from RBI, they are providing interest to the RBI. So these are what? These are realized profit. Understood? Now I will tell you how realized and unrealized profits are distributed. Need not worry. I was explaining you the concept or difference between realized and non-realized profit. Now what is economic capital framework? Economic capital framework is basically the formula based on which RBI first makes some kind of risk provisions, that the total amount of profit RBI is making, it keeps these some of the profit aside for future related purposes. But the rest amount of money that the RBI remains with, it has to transfer it to the government. And this formula or the methodology to arrive at how much money RBI needs to keep for risk and how much amount of money RBI needs to give to the government, this is basically called as economic capital framework. Now another thing that I had to explain, that suppose RBI is making profit, this is known as gross profit. But you understand RBI also has some kind of an operational expenses, right? What are operational expenses of RBI? It has to print money. So the cost of printing the money is an operational expense. It has to provide salaries. It has to provide pensions to its employees. It has to provide tea and coffee to its employees so that they do not sleep at work. Right? So these are operational expenses of RBI. So from gross profit, RBI minuses operational expenses, and it comes at what is called as a net profit. Right? So this net profit is what is subjected to be given to government, and this is also what is subjected to be transferred in form of risk provisioning. Understood? So this is the difference. Now we were talking about economic capital framework. Understood? So economic capital framework basically is the formula which decides how much amount of money RBI should keep aside for its risk provisions, and rest of the money the RBI should send it to the government. And as per this provision, the central bank is required to pay balance of its profits to central government only after making the provisions for bad and doubtful debts in future, depreciation in its assets, and contribution to its staff. So this is how RBI transfers the money to the government, and therefore ECF is what tells us how much amount of money RBI transfers as dividend to the government every year. Now let us understand what ECF formula says about risk provisioning, right? Now earlier there was this big issue between the government and RBI. Obviously government would want to RBI to transfer as much profit as it can, but obviously RBI as a autonomous institution also would want to enlist or maintain its integrity when it comes to financial stability. So automatically as an institution, RBI would also want to have a significant amount of risk provisioning. Now to solve this dispute, RBI and government, it created a committee under the chairmanship of former governor of RBI, Mr. Bimal Jalan, to decide on what will be the formula to fix the amount of dividend that should be given to the government. And it submitted the report, and this was accepted by RBI in August 2019. So let us understand how and what was the report of Bimal Jalan committee and how it was accepted by RBI. Now RBI profit needs to be categorized into realized and unrealized profit. The difference between them I've already told you. So this was one of the recommendations of Bimal Jalan committee, that every profit that RBI makes, not every profit is a realized profit. Some of it might be notional profit, so that you need to segregate. And only a portion from the realized profits will be transferred to the government. And what portions of profit needs to be transferred to the government? That will be decided on how much provisioning that RBI does. And reserves that RBI would maintain for its provisioning, they will be called, or they will be made into two different accounts. First is a contingency risk buffer, and another one is the revaluation reserve. So all the realized profit that the RBI is making in a particular year will be transferred to CRB, that is contingency risk buffer, and the unrealized profit of RBI will be transferred to revaluation reserve. Understood? Any doubts up till now, or otherwise I'll move forward. So Bimal Jalan committee said first you need to distinguish between realized and unrealized profit, and the reserve that RBI would maintain would be two kinds of reserve. For realized profit you will make contingency risk buffer, and for unrealized profit you will make revaluation reserve, and only a portion of realized profit will be transferred to the government. Any doubts? Anyone? जल्दी बोलो भाई, पनवेल निकलना है. Okay, now RBI, it transfers surplus to the government from its profits after making some, or after keeping some money aside in the contingency risk buffer. Now what is contingency risk buffer? It is the country saving for a rainy day, which means whenever there is a financial instability, RBI would use money from contingency risk buffer to make our economy stable. And this is why, because RBI is called as a lender of last resort. Now what the Bimal Jalan committee said about how much money should be kept in contingency risk buffer, the Bimal Jalan committee said that RBI's contingency risk buffer should be maintained with a range of 5.5 to 6.5% of the central bank's balance sheet. Okay, let me explain this to you with a very simple example. Suppose in a very particular year, RBI has the balance sheet size of rupees 100 crore. This is hypothetical work. Okay, so this is the RBI's balance sheet or assets. Okay, now out of this 100 crore rupees, RBI makes net profit of how much rupees? 10 crore rupees. Now I told you the Bimal Jalan committee said that RBI's contingency risk buffer should be maintained with a range of 5.5 to 6.5% of its balance sheet. Let us assume RBI wants to maintain it at 6.5%. So what will be the 6.5% of 100 crore rupees? It will be rupees 6.5 crore. So this is the size of contingency risk buffer that RBI should maintain. Okay. But in that particular year, RBI found out that its actual CRB is only 3 crore rupees. But how much CRB that RBI needs to maintain, because it has asset of 100 crore rupees, it needs to maintain 6.5 crore rupees. So it needs to add 3.5 crore rupees additional from the net profit that it had made. So here the CRB now becomes 6.5 crore rupees, because originally the RBI had CRB of 3 crore rupees and it needs to add 3.5 crore from its profits. So how much net profit does RBI have now? If you minus 3.5 crore rupees from here, RBI is left out with 6.5 crore rupees as a profit after it has made its allocation for CRB. So this 6.5 crore rupees, it will be transferred to the government as a dividend. Understood? So Bimal Jalan says that you have to maintain CRB between 5.5 to 6.5%. We have taken an example of 6.5%. Understood? So this is how RBI decides and comes through with a formula of how much money it should transfer to the government as a dividend. Understood? Now, in the last financial year, central bank, that is RBI's earning, were very robust, which was led mainly because of sale of dollars to curb volatility in the rupee market. We understood in our discussion previously that rupee was significantly getting depreciated. So to control that depreciation, RBI automatically sold dollars in the market, and automatically RBI would have made some money out of it, because it would have purchased that dollar at 50 rupees and it was selling at 80 rupees. So 30 rupees profit per dollar. Similarly, there was sharp increase in gold prices and also appreciation in the prices of government securities that were held by RBI. So all of this leads to what? Realized and unrealized profit, right? So therefore, overall earning of RBI increased, though therefore its realized profit might also have increased, and therefore RBI is expected to transfer 2.5 to 3.5 lakh crore rupees as a surplus to government this year, which would be the highest amount of dividend ever transferred by the government. And the last record was only previous year, because in previous year RBI had transferred 2.11 lakh crore rupees to the government as dividend. Now it is expected that this year it would be more, that is between 2.5 to 3 lakh crore rupees. Yes, in the balance sheet, realized and unrealized both are included, but it has to show that under different account, that is under contingency risk buffer and revaluation reserve, and it has to maintain contingency risk buffer under how much? Under 6.5%. and this I was telling you, net profit is the realized profit that the RBI makes. Okay, so do not get confused in that. Any doubts in RBI's economic capital framework? If not, let's see. Well, this is not a banking exam. You need not remember what is balance sheet. Balance sheet is basically everything asset and liability. We were talking about asset only. खर्चा पानी लिखते हो ना कि घर से मेरे 10,000 रुपए आए, आई स्पेंड 8,000 रुपीज, आई हैव 2,000 रुपीज लेफ्ट. तो बैंक जो ये करता है, दैट इज बैलेंस शीट. Yes, all of you are right. First is correct, second is incorrect. Fixed amount नहीं होता, it changes every year as we have understood based on the formula. Okay, so option is the right answer. All of you have gotten this right. I am happy now. Now let us move to the second article. This was yesterday's article and this is today's article. But if you read today's article, it will now tell you every month there will be the data of PLFS which will now come. So you need not take a look at every month's data. Like every month there is an inflation level data. We don't remember how much inflation was in May, how much inflation was in April, right? Because UPSC doesn't ask question like that. So in future, UPSC will not ask you the question, what was the employment figure in April of 2025? What UPSC will ask, that how is employment or unemployment or inflation is calculated in India, that we need to understand. So let us understand details about PLFS, how employment, unemployment unemployment is calculated in India and what changes have been made to PLFS recently, which becomes important from our exam. Okay. Now the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, it releases periodically what is known as periodic labor force survey. Now it will be released also on a monthly basis starting from this month, along with the usual quarterly and yearly report. Now earlier the PLFS were published quarterly for both rural and urban area, and the revamped survey will have additional details about education, land possessed, land leased, household usual monthly income, pension, interest and remittances. What are the changes made? Need not worry, I will tell you one by one. Okay. So in this regard, let us quickly understand what is a PLFS, Periodic Labour Force Survey. Now this was started by National Statistical Office, which is a part of Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and it was started in 2017 to report on the levels of employment and unemployment in India in urban areas on a quarterly basis and for rural areas on an annual basis. And then after this, an annual report was also published by PLFS, which combined the data for both rural and urban area, right? Now this annual report usually by the PLFS was given from the year July to June period. So July 2023 to June 2024 will be how the reports earlier were used to publish. Now this will be changed from last month, that is April 2025. How this will be changed, I will tell you, not worry. Now let us understand how what kinds of employment and unemployment rate are published by the PLFS. Okay, now it produces three kinds of formula, that is labor force participation rate LFPR, worker population ratio WPR and unemployment rate UR. And what is the formula of LFPR? LFPR you achieve it by understanding labor force in India divided by working age population. Working age population in India is between 15 to 64 years age. Okay. And labor force, it means both people who are employed plus people who are not employed. So this constitutes our labor force, and LFPR actually tells you how much amount of people who are in the working age and not preparing for UPSC are actually employed. So if you are preparing for UPSC and not seeking work, will you be unemployed or not? Let me know in the comment section. Now another formula is worker population ratio. Obviously it means the number of people who are employed divided by the total population of the country. Here we were dividing it by working age population. It told you how much amount of people were participating in economic activities. Now unemployment rate is the total number of unemployed people in India divided by the labor force. Labor force obviously is the people who are in working age. Sorry, not labor force is people who are unemployed plus employed. So it told you unemployment ratio. So these are the three figures that are not structural employment. This is a voluntary unemployment, not known as unemployment as per the figures given by the government. Not even frictional, voluntary. Frictional means you have gotten your degree but you are not able to get job. Structural employment is, suppose you have gotten a civil engineering degree and the demand is for computer engineering. That is structural. Frictional is you are not able to get job after your college due to your own inability. That is frictional in employment. Okay, so these are so if you are preparing for UPSC and if you do not seek work, you will not be called as unemployed by government, need not worry. So these are the three formulas, or these are the three figures that are published in PLFS survey. Please remember this formula. If you do not remember it, download the notes, make sure to revise it every day until you remember it. Now these figures are produced on two different criteria. First is known as current weekly status. What is current weekly status? It estimates the amount of unemployed people living based on what they were doing in the last 1 week, right? So the questioner will approach you and saying, were you even employed for past 1 hour in the last week? And if you say no, then you will be called as unemployed. So a person is considered as unemployed under the current weekly status, because if in last week he or she did not even was able to find work for even 1 hour, then they are called as unemployed. So if that person works for 2 hours in a particular week, will he be employed or unemployed? He will be called as employed. Understood? So this is current weekly status, and the word weekly means the question will be asked to you, what were you doing in the last week, right? Now another idea of unemployment is the usual status. What is usual status? Here the estimate of labor force in usual status includes the person who have worked or they were seeking and available for work for a relatively longer part of 365 days preceding the date of survey. So when the person who is taking the survey come to you, he will ask, were you employed for a major part in the last 1 year or not? So suppose if you say I was working for 7 months and I was unemployed for 5 months, then you will be called as what? You will be called as employed. But suppose if you are seeking work for entire year but you were only working for 4 months, then you will be called as unemployed. Okay. But suppose if you are seeking work just for 5 months and in that 5 months you only got employment for 2 months, and then also you will be called as unemployed as per the usual status. Understood? So these are the two figures that are published by the government. That is current weekly status and the usual status. Now let's see what were the changes made to PLFS survey. Now the employment and unemployment related indicators, that is LFPR, WPR and UR, which is published by PLFS, I have told you what the definition is, will be estimated on a monthly basis for both urban and rural areas. And this will be done in current weekly status mode obviously. And they will produce a quarterly estimated in both usual and current weekly status for both rural and urban areas. So this was the changes made. Earlier there were no monthly data that was published by PLFS, only the quarterly data and the annual data was published. Now they've added that we will conduct this survey and publish the data monthly like inflation data. Okay. Another changes that has been made is that the questions will be additional. What additional questions will be asked? Your education levels, whether you possess land, or whether if you possess land, have you leased out that land on rent or not? And what is the household's usually monthly income from rent, pension, interest and remittances? So it will tell you actually the data. Many people, they do not get employed because their income from these sources are quite high. So obviously, so if their income from these sources is 1 lakh rupees a month, and if they are getting employment for 20,000 rupees, why would they work for 20,000 rupees, right? Some of them will, many of them would, right? So these were the new questions that will be asked now. Now the annual report will follow a new calendar year. Earlier I told you they used to follow what calendar year? July to June, right? Now they will be done from January to December. So the first annual report of PLFS survey will come from January 2025 to December 2025, and the first monthly report will come from April month, that will be published in May 2025. So these are the changes that have been made to PLFS survey. Understood? Any doubt in current weekly status and usual status? That is more important from our exams perspective. If you don't have any doubt, let's see if you are able to solve this question. And if you understood economic capital framework now, do me a favor, comment it in the comment section after this video ends, so that others also know I'm teaching well. Okay. I want more and more people to watch these kind of sessions. That is my ultimate aim. Now under usual status, individuals who have worked for a period of more than 30 days during the reference year are classified as employed. It is incorrect. I told you, you have to work for major part of the year, that is 6 months or more. So if you have worked for say 2 months, you won't be called as employed under the usual status. Now under current weekly status, persons are classified as employed if they have gainful work even for an hour in the preceding week. This is correct, obviously the exact definition of current weekly status. So B is the right answer. Okay. Now let us move with the third article. This also appeared in the page 13 of the Indian Express newspaper. It talks about IRDAI and the top post of IRDAI, that is chairman of IRDAI. The post is vacant after the earlier chairman's retirement. Okay. So in that regard, let us understand the body, that is Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, and what is the process of appointing the new chairman. Okay. Now in this regard, first you need to understand the type of a body. This is a statutory body. Why? Because it was enacted or established based on the act passed by the Indian Parliament. Headquarters of this body is not in Mumbai. Do not worry about that. This is in Hyderabad, Telangana. Usually the finance related authorities, RBI, SBI, etc., these are headquartered in Mumbai because Mumbai is our nation's financial capital. But this is headquartered in Telangana, in Hyderabad. Now it comes under the Ministry of Finance, particularly the Department of Financial Services. And the members of IRDAI, it includes 1 chairman, 5 whole-time members and 4 part-time members, and they are appointed by central government. Okay. Now let us understand why a new chairman was needed. I told you right now IRDAI does not have a chairman, but you need a chairman because first of all, insurance sector economic wise is very important for India. Because insurance sector every year that both private and public companies combined, they earn a lot of money in form of premiums. That suppose if you enlist for an insurance scheme and suppose if you enlist for a health insurance scheme, you need to pay a certain amount of premium money, which in case if you use your regardless of you use your health insurance in the next year or not, you will have to pay that premium amount of money. So if you combine all the premium amount of money, India's insurance sector earned in the particular year, it amounted to 7 lakh crore rupees in the last financial year. And therefore, when a sector has so much amount of money and it is earning so much amount of money every year, it plays a key role in country's growth prospect, because then it won't keep that money idle. It will invest this money in share market. It will invest that money in government security. So automatically it leads to huge addition of money in Indian economy, be it in share market or be it with the government. Now also IRDAI has appointed a committee recently to examine reforms in the sector. Why government wants reform? Because it is pushing for inclusive insurance, that is providing insurance in one form or the other to everyone in the India by 2047. Also recently government announced an increase in the FDI limit. Earlier only 74% of FDI was accepted in insurance sector, that is foreign investors can only own about 74% of the company earlier. Now it has been made 100%. So now the sector would also see increase in foreign direct investment. So you also need a chairperson in the regulator so that they are overseeing the changes in the sector. And also health insurance premium in recent times have risen sharply in the wake of higher medical inflation and claims. Therefore, even the health insurance I bought, the amount of money that I paid this year was 2,000 more than last year. Understood? So this is how these are the worries and opportunities of the sector, and you need a stable regulator with a chairman to oversee the changes. Now let us understand how the chairperson of IRDAI is elected or selected. Now the applicant for IRDAI chairman should have a minimum 2 years of residual service from the date of vacancy, which means that the applicant should not exceed 63 years of age, because that chairperson retires in what? 65 years of age. Another one, that they should preferably have at least 30 years of relevant work experience if they have worked as a secretary to Government of India or an equivalent level in the state government, or they also need to have a proven track record of leadership and authority in decision making. Similarly, applicants from private sector are also eligible, provided that they have worked for a large financial institution and they have worked as a CEO or an equivalent post. Okay, so these kind of people, that is ex-government service servants, PSU employees, and even the private sector employees who have headed a large financial company, these are eligible to be appointed as the next IRDAI chairman. Now the appointment process is actually completed by central government, but the names of the recommended people are given to government by the Financial Sector Regulatory Appointments Committee. This is headed by Cabinet Secretary in India, and it also includes Secretary of Department of Financial Services, RBI Governor, and 3 other members. So this is what is FSRARC, and they give the names to Government of India and they can select. The government will finally select the person. Now this committee, what it does, it is free to identify and recommend based on the merit any person, those who have applied for office. So even persons who have not applied, they can be called by the FSARC and they will be interviewed. Now in case there is a outstanding candidate that emerges, the committee may also recommend relaxation in the eligibility, qualification and the experience criteria. So ultimately the part and parcel of appointing rests with FSARC. They will provide few names and the government will appoint one of that person as the chairperson of IRDAI. Now what IRDAI does? First, it gives license to insurance companies and insurance intermediaries to start their business. It protects the interest of policyholder. It regulates investment of fund, how the fund that the insurance company make, how can they invest in other organizations like share market, like government. So it actually regulates the investment, that not all money can be invested in stock market. What if stock market falls tomorrow? So obviously the money will be lost. So in that regard, it makes certain criteria on how to invest. Similarly, it undertakes inspection, conducts inquiries and investigation in case of wrongdoings by the company, and adjudicates in the dispute if it happens between the insurers and the intermediaries, right? So this is how it regulates. Now, which kind of an entity are regulated by IRDAI? Both insurance companies, that is life insurance and general insurance companies, and also public and private. So all of the kind of insurance company, LIC, private insurance like HDFC, Ergo, Tata, AIG, all of them are regulated by IRDAI. Similarly, reinsurance companies, the companies who provide insurance services to insurance companies, they are also regulated. Agency channels, intermediaries like agents, brokers, policy bazaar, etc., they all are regulated by IRDAI. Okay. Now let's see if you are able to solve this question. I'll get out of your way. Otherwise, I'll get a comment, sir, हट जाओ सामने से. Thus, IRDAI is a statutory body under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Incorrect. Ministry of Finance, particularly Department of Financial Services. IRDAI headquarters situated in Hyderabad. Correct. It regulates investment of funds by professional organization connected with the insurance business. Again correct. So 2 and 3 are correct. 1 is not. Only 2, option B is the right answer. All of you have gotten it right. Yes. Now I told you few aspects of economy, but I am only able to teach you economy if the article appears in the exam. What about the other topics which are not appearing in the newspaper, right? But I teach that in the foundation batches. Right now the May evening batch is ongoing. The admissions have started for this batch, and what you need to do to take admissions in either of 3 batches, go to our website, click on the website. Now you will require to click explore courses here. After clicking on explore courses, click on the option UPSC IS English, because I teach exclusively in English batch. I can speak Hindi properly, but when it comes to teaching in Hindi, I am not able to. Okay. Now then, to take admissions in the May evening batch, you need to click on this particular side. Now you can see 40,999 is the course fees for diamond batch. But let me tell you a way where you can get it for discounted amount. Like once you click on buy now, here you need to add promo code. Write ATS live here. Okay. When you write ATS live and click on apply, see 7,000 rupees discount is applicable, and the diamond course, it now is available at 33,999. Okay. Similarly, platinum is at 29,999 and gold is at 19,999. So my recommendation to you is take diamond batches. And why am I telling you to take diamond batch after applying the code ATS live? Because all the benefits of StudyIQ IS is available in diamond, whereas only some and few are available for gold and platinum. Not all. Okay. Now let us move to another article. This talks about US courts. It scrutinized Trump's bid to restrict the birthright citizenship. Now it appeared in the world page. World page is actually the one just behind the front page. Front page is an ad. After that, when you turn the page is world page. So I have taken that article from here. Okay. Now this talks about birthright citizenship, which is a concept of polity, right? So in that regard, let us understand what is birthright citizenship and why are we discussing it? Because if you remember, President Trump, the next day when he came to office, one of the key policy measures that he introduced, that he restricted the amount of birthright citizenship in US. So the court in US, they will hear arguments regarding the legality of the executive order that has been passed by US president. So effectively, what is courts doing in US? It is doing judicial review. Is judicial review available in India and under what article of the Constitution? Let me know in the comments. Now it is aimed at a children who are born in United States to undocumented immigrants or people who are temporarily residing in US as visa holders like H1B, L1 visa, etc. Now, the outcome of this case could determine the future course of American citizenship law also. So, this is why we are discussing it. Yes, Article 13, but also in Article 32, both of these articles allow Article 32, Article 226, Article 13. These three are the ones that directly or indirectly calls for judicial review in India. Yes, judicial review actually is a concept taken from US. Understood? Now let us discuss the concept of birthright citizenship. Now very simply, the birthright citizenship is a legal principle that tells you once you are born in X country, you will automatically be given the citizenship of that country. Now presently in US, there are two forms of birth related citizenship. First is birthplace based citizenship, which in legal or in Latin terms is called as jus soli. Soli here means soil. So it grants citizenship or unrestricted citizenship based on place of birth. So earlier, whenever a child was born in US, irregardless of the mother's or father's citizenship status, they were provided with the citizenship of USA. So you will hear many of your relatives who have gone there US on temporary visa. Their children who are born in US, they have American passports. Similarly, another concept is known as jus sanguine. Jus sanguine in Latin terms means descent. So here the citizenship is provided to people who are born outside the country, but they are born to citizens of US, right? So suppose if an American diplomat posted in India, they have a children in Ames, Delhi. So will that children be given Indian citizenship or US citizenship? Automatically US citizenship, right? So that is how citizenship are offered in US under two circumstances, under jus soli, that is through birth, and under jus sanguine, that is through descent. So we are talking about birthplace based jus soli citizenship, right? Now the US Constitution, it has a particular amendment done known as 14th Amendment. Now this 14th Amendment, it guaranteed birthright citizenship, stating all persons born or naturalized in United States and subject to the jurisdiction of thereof are citizens of United States and of the states where they are reside. As US is properly a federal country, so there you get citizenship not just of US country but also of the state you are living in. But in India, you only are eligible to get citizenship of India, not of UP or Bihar or Tamil Nadu or Kerala, right? Now this provision that was of 14th Amendment, it was widely interpreted to make citizens to anyone who was born on American soil, except children of diplomats who have allegiance to other governments. So for example, Indian diplomat posted in New York, if their child is born there, they are not eligible to get US citizenship. And enemies who are present in US during the hostile occupation, their children are also not able to get citizenship. But it was extended to everyone who was there legally or illegally except these two circumstances, right? Now, on the first day of office, Trump, he signed an executive order denying the citizenship to children of parents who were not themselves US citizens or lawful permanent residents, right? So according to this order, it targeted people who were illegally staying in US or are temporarily present in the country on tourist visa or on the H1B visa, who are not subject to jurisdiction of US. So this says that the executive order said that 14th Amendment has always excluded the birthright citizenship to those who were born not in US. So it said the people who are not the subject of jurisdiction of US government, like the ones who are illegally staying in US and the one who are temporarily present in US, it is automatically excluded from the citizenship. So this was the reinterpretation of an existing provision of the US Constitution. Now, how will it impact people? Obviously, it will impact people under two categories. First, a person who is born in US and the mother of that person was unlawfully present in US, that is, she was an illegal migrant and the father was not a United States citizen. So, in that case, that child will not be offered the US citizenship. Similarly, if the child is born to a mother who was present in United States at the time of child, it was also lawful but temporary. Suppose she was on H1B visa, right? So she was on L1 visa. So in that case, if she was visiting as a student or for work or as a tourist to US and the father was not a US citizen, then that child will not be provided the citizenship of US. So this is how it impacts two categories of people. And why is it important for India? Because children who are born to foreign nationals who are on temporary work visa and waiting for green card, particularly Indians, they are the ones who are are not getting their children their citizenship. And Indian American community is very strong in the US. That is 5.4 million people belonging to Indian community live there in 2024, and around 2/3 of them, they are just first generation immigrants who have gone there on student visa or on the work visa, right? So their children will not be getting US citizenship from now on. So this actually eliminates what was known as birth tourism. That it was found out many Indian and Chinese women, when they were actually pregnant, they used to travel to US so that their children are ultimately born in US and they are getting the citizenship. Okay. Now let's see if you are able to solve this question. I'll get out of your way again. Well, just solely, I told you it was relating to soil of a country, which means irrespective of whether your parents are citizens or not, if you get birth in US, you will be given the citizenship. So it is not regardless of the place of birth, rather it was with regard to place of birth. So first is incorrect. Jus sanguinis allows anyone to born in the country to claim citizenship irrespective of the nationality of parents. This is incorrect. I told you this is relating to descent of the parents. So if your parents are American, then you will be getting the citizenship irrespective of whether you are born in US or in India or in Indonesia. So ex-president of United States, Barack Obama, he was born in Indonesia, but as his parents were US, then therefore he was American citizen by birth. Right, so therefore he was eligible to get into presidency. American Constitution only allows citizens who are originally citizen of US, not a transformed citizen into US. Only those people can be president of India. So if I acquire citizenship of US in future, I won't be eligible to become US president. Okay, so both of these statements are incorrect. Option D is the right answer. Some of you have gotten it right. Priyalata, Vaishnavi, Sarang, please revise it. I'm sure you've gotten this by mistake. You'll get it correct the next time. Okay. Now it is 4:53. Let us do this article. It is a small article. Israeli airstrikes have killed 85 across Gaza Strip. So in that regard, Gaza Strips become important from our exams perspective, because Gaza Strip has been in news for many time now. Now multiple airstrikes have hit Gaza, southern city of Khan Yunis overnight. Now essentially this strike comes because US president is in the region in Middle East visiting Gulf state, but he's not visiting Israel. And there has been a widespread hope that once Trump visits this region, it could lead into ceasefire deal or even provision of humanitarian aid to Gaza. But Israeli blockade of the territory is now in its third month. So that is why the world or the eyes of the world is on Gaza, like many Indians who care more for Gaza but not so much for Kashmir. Right. So in that regard, Gaza Strip actually is this piece of land. So you can see it borders Egypt, it borders Israel, and it is located in the nearby Mediterranean Sea. So this is the region I'm talking about. These are the main cities of Gaza Strip. Rafah, which is located in the Egypt border. So Rafah crossing was in news. Khan Yunis, where the bombings have taken place. Gaza City, Jabalia, Beit Hanun. All of these are located on the nearby the coast of Mediterranean Sea and very near to the coast of borders of Israel and Egypt, right? So in that regard, let us understand the geographical features first. Now, Gaza Strip is a part of Levant region. What is a Levant region? It is the region which is along the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea. So countries like Israel, countries like Syria, Jordan, Palestine, they are part of Levant region. Now the climate of this region obviously is Mediterranean type of climate, that is hot semi-arid climate, and the major crops that are grown in Gaza include citrus fruit. What are citrus fruit? Orange, grapes, these are citrus fruit. Dates, olive, etc. are also grown in this area. Okay, now the political features of Gaza. It is a territory occupying 140 square miles of land alongside the Mediterranean Sea and just northeast of the Sinai Peninsula. Sinai Peninsula is a part of Egypt, which is this part of the territory. This is called as Sinai Peninsula. Okay. Now the bordering countries of Gaza is Egypt towards southwest and Israel towards east and north, and it is the smaller of the two Palestinian territories, other being the West Bank that makes up of the state of Palestine. So this is the territory of West Bank, and West Bank and Gaza are the official territories of what is known as state of Palestine. And West Bank is ruled by Palestinian Liberation Authority. Gaza Strip was used to be ruled by a terrorist organization known as Hamas. Hamas actually portrayed itself as a political organization, but its activities have led it to be declared as a terrorist organization, right? Now the history of Gaza is that in 6-day war which happened in 1967, Israel actually occupied Gaza, and therefore it ruled Gaza for the next 25 years. But in 1994, Israel began a phase transfer, and this was transferred to the government authority in Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority under the terms agreed upon by the two respective authorities in Oslo Accord, which was a talks brokered by United States, right? Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular PYQ which appeared in the 2022 exam. Yes, it is not the entire coast of Mediterranean Sea, rather only the eastern shores of Mediterranean Sea. So option A is the right answer. Now let's see if you are able to solve this question. Yes, Tara, option D. I guess you were talking about the last question. Now the countries which share border with Gaza, Egypt and Israel, Lebanon and Jordan, they don't, right? They share borders with West Bank, not with Gaza. So option B is the right answer, okay? Now this is the last article, but as time is almost 5, I will record this video and get it uploaded by 9 PM, okay? Need not worry. Please make sure to watch that video, okay? That is article 143, very important from our exam. We have earlier done 142, now time has come for 143. So I'll upload the video, this will be the thumbnail at 9 PM, need not worry. So this brings our end to the session. Do not forget to log in again at 9 PM. I'll see you again tomorrow at 4, okay? At 9 PM after 4.